Long hauls need smart prep. Tap like, hit subscribe, and let's begin.
Question 1. In South Dakota, the T endorsement allows operation of triple trailers. True or false? False. The T endorsement is for double and triple trailers, but South Dakota prohibits triple trailers on most public roads. Question 2. In South Dakota, a CDL applicant must be at least 18 years old to operate a CMV in interstate commerce. True or false? True. Drivers must be 21 for interstate commerce, but can operate intrastate at 18. Question 3. A driver with a South Dakota CDL can have their license suspended for refusing a chemical test, even if they are under the legal BAC limit. True or false? True. Refusal triggers implied consent penalties, regardless of actual BAC. Question 4. ELDT requirements in South Dakota apply to all new CDL applicants, as well as those seeking certain endorsements, such as H, P, and S. True or false? True. South Dakota follows FMCSA regulations for ELDT. Question 5. In South Dakota, a BAC of .04 or higher while operating as CMV is grounds for immediate disqualification. True or false? True. This matches federal CDL safety standards enforced statewide. Question 6. A driver in South Dakota may operate as CMV without a CDL if they are driving a military vehicle in active service. True or false? True. Military exemptions apply under specified conditions. Question 7. Class C in South Dakota covers single or combination vehicles that transport 16 or more passengers or carry hazardous materials requiring placards. True or false? True. This classification matches federal definitions. Question 8. The South Dakota CDL Manual states that a daily vehicle inspection is optional unless hauling hazardous materials. True or false? False. A daily inspection is required for all CMVs to ensure safety. Question 9. The S endorsement in South Dakota is only required for drivers transporting students in a yellow school bus. True or false? False. It is required for any vehicle transporting school children, regardless of color. Question 10. South Dakota considers leaving the scene of an accident involving a CMV a major offense with a minimum 1-year disqualification. True or false? True. This applies to both interstate and intrastate CMV operation. Question 11. In South Dakota, a failed air brake check during a pre-trip inspection will not result in an automatic road test failure. True or false? False. Air brake check failures are immediate test failures. Question 12. CDL applicants in South Dakota must provide proof of U.S. citizenship or lawful permanent residency. True or false? True. This complies with federal security requirements. Question 13. The CDL skills test in South Dakota must be taken in a vehicle representative of the class and type for which the driver is applying. True or false? True. Otherwise, a restriction will be placed on the CDL. Question 14. Hydraulic brake systems in South Dakota CMVs require a pre-trip check of the brake fluid level, brake pedal travel, and brake warning light. True or false? True. These are critical inspection points listed in the manual. Question 15. In South Dakota, operating a CMV while texting is permitted as long as the vehicle is stopped at a red light. True or false? False. Handheld mobile device use is prohibited while operating a CMV, even when stopped in traffic. Question 16. A driver with a hazardous materials endorsement in South Dakota must renew their TSA background check every 10 years. True or false? False. Renewal is required at least every 5 years. Question 17. Combination vehicles in South Dakota require checking that the trailer kingpin is locked into the fifth wheel jaws. True or false? True. This is part of the mandatory coupling inspection. Question 18. In South Dakota, carrying passengers for hire in a vehicle without the proper P endorsement can lead to a fine, but not CDL suspension. True or false? False. Operating without the proper endorsement can lead to CDL suspension or revocation. Question 19. Air tanks in South Dakota CMVs must be drained daily to remove moisture and oil. True or false? True. This prevents brake system damage and failure. Question 20. In South Dakota, any detectable amount of alcohol for a driver under 21 operating a CMV results in an automatic 1-year CDL suspension. True or false? True. This zero-tolerance rule is strictly enforced. Question 21. The South Dakota CDL Manual states that a driver transporting hazardous materials must carry a current emergency response guidebook. True or false? True. This ensures quick access to spill and safety procedures. Question 22. School bus drivers in South Dakota must stop at all railroad crossings, even when carrying no passengers. True or false? True. This is a federal and state safety requirement. Question 23. In South Dakota, a driver can pass the skills test without completing the basic control skills portion if they pass the road test with no errors. True or false? False. All 3 portions, pre-trip, basic control, and road test, must be passed. Question 24. Carrying an oversized load in South Dakota requires a CDL and often a special permit depending on the load dimensions. True or false? True. State regulations outline size and weight permit requirements. Question 25. The South Dakota CDL Manual prohibits using the parking brake to assist in slowing a moving CMV. True or false? True. Parking brakes are not designed for speed control and can cause loss of control. Question 26. In South Dakota, a driver transporting livestock must still comply with all hours of service regulations. True or false? False. Livestock haulers have specific federal and state exemptions during certain conditions, such as emergencies. Question 27. The South Dakota CDL Manual advises testing the trailer brakes by using the trailer hand valve while moving at a slow speed. True or false? True. This checks trailer brake function before entering traffic. Question 28. When driving in South Dakota winter conditions, the manual recommends double clutching to prevent wheel spin on slick roads. True or false? False. Double clutching is for smooth gear shifting. Traction is maintained with gentle acceleration and braking, not clutch technique. Question 29. In South Dakota, using the engine retarder on icy roads can cause drive wheel skids. True or false? True. Retarders can reduce traction and lead to loss of control on slippery surfaces. Question 30. The manual states that all CMVs with air brakes in South Dakota must have an air pressure buildup rate of at least 85 to 100 psi within 45 seconds at operating RPM. True or false? True. This ensures the system meets safety standards. Question 31. In South Dakota, you may leave your vehicle unattended without setting the parking brake if you are within 50 feet of it. True or false? False. Parking brakes must be set any time a CMV is unattended. Question 32. Drivers in South Dakota must use wheel chocks when parking on a grade, in addition to setting the parking brake. True or false? True. This is recommended in the manual for added safety. Question 33. Operating a CMV without the required medical certificate in South Dakota can result in CDL suspension. True or false? True. Federal and state regulations mandate a valid medical card. Question 34. The South Dakota CDL Manual requires that the steering will have no more than 10 degrees of free play in a 20-inch wheel. True or false? True. Excess free play is a defect that must be repaired before driving. Question 35. In South Dakota, hazardous material placards are optional if the shipment is under 500 pounds. True or false? False. Placarding rules depend on material type and hazard class, not just weight. Question 36. The manual states that school bus drivers must activate red flashing lights at least 100 feet before stopping in rural areas. True or false? True. This gives approaching drivers sufficient warning. Question 37. A driver in South Dakota can hold both a CDL and a regular driver's license from two different states at the same time. True or false? False. Federal law prohibits holding more than one driver's license. Question 38. The South Dakota CDL Manual requires checking the coolant level only when the engine is cold. True or false? True. Checking when hot can cause burns or injury. Question 39. Drivers must perform a tug test after coupling to ensure the trailer is securely attached. True or false? True. This is a standard safety check in South Dakota. Question 40. In South Dakota, it is legal to coast downhill in neutral if the vehicle is under control. True or false? False. Coasting in neutral is unsafe and prohibited. Question 41. The manual requires drivers to check cargo securement at least every 150 miles or every 3 hours. True or false? True. This matches federal cargo securement rules. Question 42. In South Dakota, CDL disqualification for a first-time major offense is typically for 90 days. True or false? False. Most major offenses result in at least a 1-year disqualification. Question 43. When backing a CMV in South Dakota, using a helper is encouraged to prevent blind spot accidents. True or false? True. A spotter increases safety during backing maneuvers. Question 44. The South Dakota CDL Manual requires drain valves on all air tanks to be automatic. True or false? False. They can be manual or automatic, but must be drained regularly. Question 45. For CMVs with anti-lock brakes in South Dakota, the ABS warning light should stay on during driving. True or false? False. The ABS light should go off after the system is checked at startup. Question 46. In South Dakota, using a radar detector in a CMV is prohibited. True or false? True. Federal rules ban radar detectors in CMVs nationwide. Question 47. The manual requires school bus drivers to conduct a post-trip inspection to ensure no students are left on board. True or false? True. This is a mandatory safety step in South Dakota. Question 48. A driver can operate a CMV in South Dakota without wearing a seatbelt if they are traveling under 25 miles per hour. True or false? False. Seatbelt use is mandatory for all CMV drivers at all speeds. Question 49. The South Dakota CDL Manual requires drivers to use low beams in fog, rain, or snow. True or false? True. Low beams improve visibility without glare in such conditions. Question 50. In South Dakota, an empty trailer has better traction than a fully loaded one due to less weight. True or false? False. Loaded trailers have better traction. Empty ones are more prone to skidding and poor handling.
Nice job! Want to be extra ready? Watch the next one or tap the link for your cheat sheet now.